Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to the Office of Teaching and Learning Webcast. I'm Amanda Ellis, the Associate Commissioner over this great office, and I have with me today Robin McCoy. Robin, thanks for being back with us. I think Robin really likes our webcast because she's here a lot. No, but today we're going to be giving you an update on the course code project and just some questions you all may have had, some opportunities we have offered, and some new things we've learned. But before I turn it over to Robin, I want you to take an opportunity to look at the bottom of your screen and log into soapbox.com. You'll see that the password is OTL. That gives you an opportunity to ask questions throughout the webcast so we can address those in real time and be able to meet your needs for this. So, Robin, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Perfect.
Thank you for being here, and I'll come back towards the end to finish up.
Perfect. Today we're really going to focus on dual credit. We have released our dual credit course codes, and can't get my PowerPoint here to work. Hold on just a second. Maybe it's the on button I need to push. There we go. So we are going to focus on dual credit today. The dual credit course codes have been released, and there is some information that's really helpful to all shareholders as you go forth and implement these within your schedule. And so that's what we're going to share today. I'll go first over some general information. This is just some high-level information that needs to be shared to make sure there's a good understanding across the state of exactly, when we use these terms, what exactly we mean. And I know for sure everybody probably understands what dual credit, or thinks they understand what dual credit is, but there is a true definition to dual credit, that you are accepting the college credit at the high school level. So both the high school and the college are transcripting the course. As the high school, that means you are accepting the college level coursework, the standards they cover in the course, the content, the textbooks, the grades they issue. You are accepting all of that from the post-secondary institution without modification. Dual enrollment is a little bit different. So dual credit allows students to be eligible for the scholarship, for accountability. Dual enrollment does not. Dual enrollment is defined as a high school student pursuing credit from a post-secondary institution individually. There is no agreement or expectation for the high school to issue credits based on completion. So this does not count towards accountability. It does not count towards the scholarship. So your student very well may be in your school but is pursuing some college level coursework. But they are not eligible for a reduced price, and sometimes that can be worked out with individual institutions, but sometimes not, and the student could pay full price. It's very important, though, that things are outlined in your participating post-secondary institution agreement. This is your opportunity to outline what courses you are accepting for dual credit and possibly what courses are for dual enrollment. So that dual enrollment doesn't necessarily have to be included on the agreement, but the dual credits do, which would then solve your problem of what we are actually considering dual enrollment. So this participating post-secondary institution agreement is critical to have at the district and school level. Your dual credit coordinator, your assistant superintendent, whoever is really facilitating curriculum within your district should have a good handle on this PPI agreement because it's going to outline the responsibilities of the district, outline the responsibilities of the PPI, and courses will be identified and accepted for dual credit. This goes into a much bigger play as we're getting ready to have a conversation about accountability and what dual credit course codes mean for accountability. It can also outline the specific items that are relevant to the working relationship between the local education agency and the PPI. But this agreement is so critical. The next question we often get is, what is the certification requirement for teaching dual credit coursework? So again, let's go back to the definition of dual credit. We really are accepting the college level coursework without modification and the grades. And so the qualifying agency to initiate certification requirements with your instructors is the post-secondary institution. So there's a lot on that screen, but really what it's saying is the post-secondary institution is responsible for ensuring certification of those dual credit instructors. So what is new this year? So we came out with General Education Dual Credit State Course Codes. Completely new process of categorizing dual credit courses in addition to getting them into Infinite Campus. We are initiating our guidance for tracking dual credit for academic readiness. We are doing guidance for tracking dual credit for career readiness. We're providing an updated dual credit placeholder code guidance. So we initially provided guidance around this placeholder code that was very different. And the field came back to us and said, we don't like the way it's done. And so can you change that? And we said, absolutely. Let's meet your needs. And so we have updated that dual credit placeholder code guidance. Also, there is a dual credit decision-making guide for secondary institutions. And so if you're struggling on determining what is really a dual credit course that you want to consider in your district, we have done a decision-making guide for secondary institutions. We will not go over that today, but it is on our course codes webpage. Also, we've updated the dual credit data standard. There's a little difference in naming to meet NCAA regulations that needs to take place. Also, the definite requirement for those names so we can pull data for the accountability system. And also an updated version of the virtual performance-based course setup and attendance verification. This document is not only used for dual credit, but also for any performance-based credits. Credit recovery options can be there too, but it's been updated to provide you with some dual credit guidance specifically because of the changes we're making. So let's take a look at the state course codes. Before we get to the actual codes, let me give you some guidance of what should be happening in your district. First, all dual credit courses must be captured in Kentucky Student Information System. And so in Infinite Campus, all dual credit courses have to be captured not only on the transcript, but also on the schedule. That is for reporting, for accountability, the KIA scholarship. There's a lot of factors that go into why they must be captured on the schedule and on the transcript, but they do have to be captured on both. The dual credit data standard and the virtual performance-based course setup and attendance verification document both give instructions for course setup within Infinite Campus. And so those documents are there and will give really outline exactly how to do it. The third bullet, dual credit courses counting towards career readiness under the transition readiness indicator must exist in a current career pathway or be approved through the pathway modification process. And dual credit courses counting towards rich curricula under the Opportunity Access Indicator and/or academic readiness under the Transition Readiness Indicator must use the appropriate general education dual credit course codes that we're getting ready to share. So let's go into tracking that academic readiness using these course codes. Just as a reminder to the regulation that it does state that a student completes 6 or more hours of Kentucky Department of Education approved dual credit and receiving a course grade of B or higher in each course. So let's first start with what we will not be categorizing. So general education dual credit courses that do not count for transition readiness or opportunity and access cannot utilize the new general education dual credit course codes. A good example of this is physical education dual credit courses. These courses can count towards the dual credit scholarship as KIA and the regulation provides, but we cannot count it for transition readiness and therefore should not use our course codes. Courses not counting, like physical education dual credit courses, must use the state code that most closely represents the content, rigor, student, and teacher certification of a given course as described in the academic course code list posted on the Kentucky Uniform Academic Course Code webpage. A good example of that comes with the course of Introduction to Recreation. This is a Rec 200 course. It will not count towards transition readiness. It is a physical education course, and so you cannot use our general education course codes as we're providing for dual credit, but it can use the closest one available within our catalog. So the closest one might be 340219 in advanced physical education that you could pursue. So let's take a look at the codes. There is a list here of the categories that must be included in a general education dual credit opportunities. These follow right along with our Council for Post-Secondary Education and what is transferable. So we're using best practices in dual credit here. Dual credit you can offer many opportunities, but you need to make sure that the credits are going towards actual programs. And so this allows kind of a strategic plan for how students are taking courses and what courses students are should be offered to take. Notice we have one for written communications, oral communications, quantitative reasoning, arts and humanities. There are 2 more within the arts and humanities, and that's to reach our rich curriculum needs, which we'll get to in a second. Natural sciences, and social and behavioral sciences. And notice there's a code corresponding, a grade level recommendation, and a credit recommendation. We do not actually initiate credit recommendations, those come from the local school district. And so we've put 0 in the anticipation that you will award credits as needed, whether it be 1 credit, which is most typical, or another option. So the minimum requirements for really using these state course codes to count for a rich curricula and academic readiness are: first, each approved dual credit course shall award 3 course credit hours or higher in each course. So students must complete 6 or more of these hours of dual credit coursework and receive a grade of B or higher to be deemed academic ready. But if you're planning on using these course codes, every course aligned to one of these course codes needs to give 3 credit hours. So I'm going to go back and look at that Rec 200, Introduction to Recreation. Not only does it not meet the guidelines because it's physical education, but typically it may only award 2 credit hours. And if so, it certainly cannot use our course credit, our general education dual credit course codes. So 2 really big reasons why they would not use this course code. Next, first-year experience courses such as Introduction to College and developmental courses will not count as approved dual credit courses for Kentucky's accountability system. Also, it's very hard to track an introduction course to what an actual high school course would be, and therefore ineligible for dual credit. Approved dual credit must be captured in Infinite Campus utilizing the appropriate corresponding course code and naming process as addressed in the dual credit data standard. So what is very important here is that not only are you using the right state course code, but you are also using the right naming faculty so that we can pull your data for transition readiness and rich curricula correctly. Thus, this is one thing your schedulers really need to know. So courses completed outside of the regular school day can count toward academic readiness, but must be captured in Infinite Campus scheduling in addition to on the student's high school transcript. So just like we said earlier, they must go on the schedule and on the transcript. So what is the difference in the 3 arts and humanities course codes? First, there's an arts and humanities general course code. There's an arts and humanities visual and performing arts, and there's an arts and humanities world language and cultural studies. All 3 of the course codes can be tracked for transition readiness, and you can use those course codes. However, 8003.1 will not be tracked for rich curricula under opportunity and access. So if you are looking for getting your rich curricula points and your opportunity and access being offered to students, you will have to use 8003.2 or 8003.3. The first one, 3.2, is being tracked for visual and performing arts. And one of the biggest things that you will have to do is districts will use this code once the determination is made by the local school district for how the dual credit course is being counted on the high school transcript as a VPA course. So once you've made the correlation to our document in rich curricula, you will then use that course code. 8003.3 is the exact same thing except for world language and cultural studies. You do have to make the correlation, though, between the dual credit course and our course codes that are listed on the rich curricula document on our Kentucky Uniform Academic Course Codes website. So that correlation must exist for those courses to be counted. So still under tracking academic readiness, approved dual credit courses shall include 1 quantitative reasoning or natural science course and 1 written or oral communication or arts and humanities or social and behavioral science courses per the CPE General Education Transfer Policy. So a great example of this would be 1 course that a student would take, Written Communications, English 101, Writing 1, and I use the KCTCS system to be able to pull this, but that's a Written Communications, and they would use our Written Communications course code. That student receives a B or higher and would receive points towards transition readiness, as long as the other one they took, it falls within the quantitative reasoning or natural sciences category. So an example of that would be quantitative reasoning, the Math 150, which is college algebra, within the KCTC system. So once that student both got B's in both courses, that student could be deemed academic readiness under our transition readiness indicator. Post-secondary institution partners that are classified as public institutions must adhere to the statewide course classification system, which regulates statewide general education SLOs as defined and adopted through policy by the Kentucky Council of Post-Secondary Education. Independent private, nonprofit, and out-of-state institutions classify courses independently. The KDE will accept independent classifications of courses that demonstrate a correlation with the statewide general education SLOs as defined and adopted through policy by the Kentucky CPE. So what I'm saying here is that each one of these classifications in the course codes, so a post-secondary institution will classify their courses as meeting one of these categories. So I'm going to show an example of that here. So take a look here. This is an example from the KCTC system. So in their course catalog, they have written communication and what courses fall within that. You will need to know that information to be able to use these course codes, along with oral communications, quantitative reasoning, natural sciences, on and on and on. You have to make that correlation, not correlation, but really connection with how the universities have classified their courses. I was saying in the last slide that independent colleges do it a little differently, and as long as you can prove that they have made the connection to the statewide general SLOs, then you can include that course. But it is on the school district to prove that connection. Local school districts that partner with independent, private, and this is really what I'm just saying, nonprofit or out-of-state post-secondary institutions are responsible for providing the documentation that demonstrates the correlation between the independent institution's student learning outcomes and the statewide general education SLOs, as defined and adopted through policy by the Kentucky CPE. So how are we going to track it? So I'm just going to give you some some high-level things that you need to talk about with either your counselor or your scheduler, or who's doing the really boots-on-the-ground actions to get these courses in the schedule. So again, local school districts will record student participation of department-approved dual credit courses in Infinite Campus. Local school districts shall verify acceptance of students to post-secondary institution with post-secondary institution partners. So there is no documentation that needs to be done on our level of that. But I'm sure you could guarantee that if you were documenting a student as in dual credit, that student has been accepted to the university. Local school districts shall verify enrollment of students in the designated department-approved dual credit courses. And so once you have agreed to use the written communications or quantitative reasoning course code, we would ask that you have verified the student enrollment into these designated courses, so that English 101 fell into written communications, and you have documentation through a course catalog that is connected to written communications. Local school districts shall utilize the department-approved dual credit course code to demonstrate student enrollment. This is just a data piece. We have to have them use our course codes and our naming faculties for us to be able to pull your data for transition readiness and rich curricula. The local school district shall record the student enrollment in Infinite Campus utilizing the appropriate course code by October 1 of the fall term and March 1 of the spring term, which gives you a little flexibility there as students move around and begin scheduling college courses. Local school districts shall record grades issued by post-secondary institutions in Infinite Campus by June 30th. There could have been the practice in the years past where you may have put it incomplete, or you may have not posted grades until much later. However, you must have it in by June 30th. That's a good practice anyway, but it's definitely a requirement now that we are tracking it for accountability. Also, the grades awarded by the post-secondary institution must be recorded in Infinite Campus without modifications. And so you are accepting that the grade issued by the post-secondary institution is the one you are documenting within Infinite Campus. Course naming for department-approved dual credit courses must adhere to the naming practices. And I already said this earlier, but really the naming and the course code are the critical components to be able to pull your data accurately. KDE will monitor student participation and receipt of the grade of B or higher through Infinite Campus. Now, dual credit courses that meet the statewide general education SLOs identified by the CPE or demonstrate a correlation to the SLOs as identified by an independent or private, nonprofit, or out-of-state institution, and meet the approved CTE dual credit criteria will therefore meet the requirements for both academic readiness and career readiness, meaning an interdisciplinary course can count for both. So schools wishing to use an academic dual credit course code for an interdisciplinary course, so a CTE course, being offered as dual credit must ensure that the course is included within the applicable CTE program of study by completing the Career Pathway Modification process in TEDS. The Office of Career and Technical Education will provide more details into exactly how this is done, but just to give you a little indication of how we're looking forward to the information coming. So once and if it's approved as an addition to the CTE program of study, the dual credit course will have met the requirements for both academic and career readiness. So there is the potential to cross the big divide of interdisciplinary courses. So tracking career readiness. This really belongs to the Office of Career and Technical Education, and they will provide the bigger, more heavier information, but just to give you a little bit of an oversight of exactly what we're looking at. So again, a reminder to the regulation is that you're completing 6 or more hours of Kentucky Department of Education approved CTE dual credit and receiving a course grade of B or higher. So approved CTE dual credit criteria is that it must be taken within a single KDE approved secondary CTE program area in which the student is enrolled. So again, it has to go back to the pathway. It must align to secondary CTE course standards. An approved CTE dual credit course is one in which the student is enrolled that is within his or her CTE program area. A KDE-approved secondary CTE program area is a broader classification of CTE curricula that includes all of those career pathways under its purview, which have been approved by the KDE and are reported in the Technical Education Database System, TEDS. KDE-approved secondary program areas include agriculture, business and marketing, construction technology, education and training, engineering and technology, family and consumer sciences, health science, information technology, manufacturing technology, media arts, and transportation. An approved CTE dual credit course also is one that meets the respective secondary CTE course standards for which it's being substituted. Dual credit courses that meet the statewide General Education Student Learning Outcomes, the SLOs, and this is just going back to what I stated earlier, the fact that we can cross the divide here and use interdisciplinary courses to meet career readiness and academic readiness. So, dual credit courses that meet the statewide general education student learning outcomes identified by the CPE or demonstrate a correlation to the SLOs as identified by an independent, private, nonprofit, or out-of-state institution and meet the approved CTE dual credit criteria will therefore meet the requirements for both academic readiness and career readiness indicators under the KDE accountability system. I'm going to give an example here. The College of Career and Technical Education just asked that we show you guys just what a pathway looks like. Most of you are very familiar with that, but if you don't, these documents exist on their webpage and can be found within their program of studies, and it just outlines what courses are available within the pathway. This is an example of the career pathway modification process. So if you need to go through the process of having a dual credit course approved within a pathway, you can use the career pathway modification form that is found within their webpage. If there are any questions that you have pertaining to dual credit, you can always email our course codes email address, so coursecodes@education.ky.gov, and we can respond to those. We know dual credit and the way we're going to track it for accountability is a very new process, and we want to make sure you have as much detail and answer to your questions as possible. Amanda?
All right.
Yeah, lots of information to share.
Lots of information. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
At this point, there are no questions, so I'm going to hit the 5 things to know before you go.
Perfect.
That'll give people a little more time. And of course, you can always send your course code questions to the course codes at education.ky.gov, and we try to answer those every day and try to be very responsive to that. So if you look at your screen, the 5 things to know before you go, there's a lot of things going on. The Equity Lab, recruitment and retention of effective educators. We've had excellent turnout to this. Everyone has an equity issue. If you have a gap, you have an equity issue. And so it's important that you follow this link to learn about what we're going to offer and how to register. It's a great opportunity. Who should attend? Just keep in mind 3 to 5 member school teams, including a principal, teacher, school or district human resource administrator. It could also include a parent or site-based member or school-based personnel. So something to be thinking about. Jennifer Baker or Vita Pendleton could definitely answer your questions on that, and that will also was also in the commissioner's email from yesterday. Also, there's an Algebra 2 EOC field test face-to-face training. It's really just to introduce you to the process in which we're looking at what we are going to be field testing this year. We'll share an example with you of that process. It's not an exemplar by any means, but we just want to keep you in the know of what's going on and how the assessment system is transitioning and the work that's gone into that process. You'll see that there are registration dates and locations that you can click on, and of course we'll send this to you if you did not see it in the commissioner's email. Also, there's the Educators Rising Kentucky Annual Conference. This is our 2nd year that we've been hosting this conference. It's for students across the Commonwealth to come together on March 14th at the University of Louisville to celebrate first steps into becoming Kentucky educators. And so this is an opportunity for students to compete, for those who are pursuing to want to be educators and how to prepare for that, and then opportunities to win in different competitions. Definitely Kelly Stidham or Kathy Collins can answer your questions. Again, there will be a link for how you can register, you and your group of kids. We really encourage you to come along. Last year we had a great showing and we were able to send the winners in Kentucky to the national competition. A great opportunity. Also, you'll notice that Trigg County Superintendent Travis Hamby has asked to share across the Commonwealth, and Dr. Pruitt was happy to do this. He is doing the Shadow a Student Challenge during the week of February 19th through March 2nd. Travis will be shadowing a student for a day to get a valuable new perspective on his own school district. The Shadow a Student Challenge is fun, illuminating, and supportive journey where school leaders come together to emphasize with their students and then take small steps to improve their school. There's an area where you can sign on. To do that, there's a registration. Again, the link will be available. We encourage you to do this. It's very eye-opening to look through the perspective of a student and walk through a typical day. It really gives you insight into what we think may be best, maybe not having the impact we had hoped. So it's important to have the perspective of a student. And last but certainly not least will be the next webcast, which will be Tuesday, March 6th. We're going to be providing you an EOC update just to let you know where we are in the process, what's coming this spring, and quite possibly adding to that just an update on standards review and revision. As you know, we have a lot of moving parts right now, moving towards that transition into our new assessment accountability, into the revised standards as called for by Senate Bill 1/2017 and the process that we're using. And so we just want to keep everybody informed and up to date on what's going on. It doesn't look like we have any questions. If there are, we'll definitely get those back to you and be able to respond. But otherwise, thank you, Robin, again for providing excellent information. We're trying to keep you informed and so you can move forward with your work. And so thank you for tuning in and have a great day.